express our gratitude to all of you for selecting us as the recipients for the Asbury Park Historical Society's, I guess, the first ever Distinguished Historians Award. It is a great honor to us. Pam and I never really started out to be historians. In fact, I have a PhD in synthetic organic chemistry. Pam has a master's degree in education. Nor did we ever start out to be experts on West Side music from Asbury Park. It kind of just happened. And I'll tell you a little bit about how it happened. For a long time, a good friend of ours was Mr. Bobby Thomas. Bobby Thomas was one of the great pioneers of R&B music in the Asbury Park area. In fact, his group, the Vibranaires, were the first ever rhythm and blues group to record in Asbury Park. Bobby was a good friend of ours. He frequently would be over the house as a guest, and he knew that we had for a number of years been doing research on what people would call doo-wop music, rhythm and blues vocal group harmony. And Bobby said, you know, Charlie and Pam, you're doing all this research on the music, you're giving multimedia presentations on it, you're writing articles. You really need to look into what went on here in Asbury Park, especially the west side of Asbury Park. There's a lot of information here that's been buried for 100 years, and if you don't get involved and start looking at this, it's going to stay buried, it's going to be lost forever. Well, Bobby said, in fact, if you and Pam want to get involved in this, he says, I know this fella Don Stein who would love to have you two give a multimedia presentation on this music for the Asbury Park Historical Society. So come April 2012, here we were giving a presentation on West Side music here at the Atonement Lutheran Church in Asbury. Bobby Thomas had a lot to do with this. He set up interviews with us and introduced us to people like Billy Brown and Lenny Welsh and Ron Coleman. And we put something together. Unfortunately, when we did give this presentation here in Asbury, Bobby Thomas was not to see it. He was in the hospital in the Jersey Shore Medical Center. He missed the thing. We went there a couple of days later. We sat with Bobby Thomas in the hospital for a few hours. We left, and then Lenny Welsh flew in and visited him. Later that evening, Bobby Thomas passed away. We felt, I guess, at that point that we kind of owed it to Bobby to keep this work going. And of course, with all the work we'd done, by that time we were kind of hooked on this. And we started working with the Asbury Park Historical Society. And I must say, we've continued on that, and we could never have done that without all of the help of the Society, and we really thank you for that. We have been through something like 4 museum exhibits, 1 giant gospel concert that we did, 3 documentaries, and canvas articles and lectures and presentations, more than I can really count. And through it all, we've depended on the Society to help us. When we got involved in this music, we didn't really know anything about Asbury Park other than what Bobby had told us, and it was all of you who stepped in and taught us about the city and the rich history of the city and 100 years of city of history that was here. I would say that at this point we've reached a stage where, after a number of museum exhibits, we said, well, what are we going to do with all this information that we've come up with? And we have started several years ago on what's now a 2-volume book on 100 years of West Side music from Asbury Park. We are hoping to complete volume 1 at least by the end of this year and have the next one coming out next year. As you know, when you look at all of us, the programs coming out referring to Asbury Heroes, and I have to say, the real Asbury heroes are the musicians and the singers and the producers of the music that produce all of it. And I'll tell you who else are the Asbury heroes here. The real Asbury heroes are the people who have recognized the history and tried to preserve the legacy of this city and all the different cultural aspects of it. These are the people that rescued the marquee off the turf club. A rusty old marquee had it restored. These are the people that took the Crane House and restored that and created a museum out of that. You are the real Asbury heroes. You've heard me quote a number of times the words of Marcus Garvey, and he said, "A people without knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots." Well, you all get that, and we thank you.